Alright, check this out. I've been known to come up with some off-the-wall, crazy ideas, theories, everything. I came up with an idea. I don't know exactly what it explains yet. I came up with my own theory. The only way to really understand it is to look at it and try to read it yourself. I'm going to give you a basic run-through of what this is about. Right here, you have, let's call that the universe, okay? Now you see the shapes in here, how it like kind of has this curve right here and this curve right here. Well, think about this. In explosions, when there's oil fires, I've heard of people or techs, whoever, using explosions to stop the oil fires. Mainly because that explosion creates a vacuum in the center with no oxygen. And the fact that there's no oxygen at the source of the fire goes out. Alright, now that basic same principle is used right here. Okay, at the moment of the Big Bang, which, think about this. If something that huge and colossal occurs, there has to be something greater than man or the universe itself to create it. Okay. Right here, at the moment of the Big Bang, this is how I see it, okay? At the moment of the Big Bang, there was repulsion from each side, because if you look at one half of the universe, it's filled with a different kind of radiation than the other side of the universe, but somewhere in the center, there's a mix, and we're in that mix, okay? This repulsion, the force of everything being pushed off that way, and the force of everything here being pushed off that way, it has to have some kind of back to push off of, kind of like kicking off a wall, like pushing yourself off a wall with your feet, right? Now my idea is that at one point this backing and this backing were brought together, okay? At the moment of the explosion, since there's nothing around the explosion to stop this energy from going in opposite directions, what it did was it started in the center and it went out and created a vacuum in the center because there's nothing around it and there's nothing inside of it. So my theory here is what happened is it created a vacuum in the center, and as it was expanding, it was in a sense trying to push off the back here, but it couldn't because there's nothing to push off of, so it created a vacuum in the center. And everything that we know of in space is within this center. Now, that would give insight to the fact that, okay, at a certain point, and my idea here is that the certain point in which the galaxies stop moving toward the center is right here at the wall of the repulsion. So if you were to draw a line straight up right here, about in this area, in here is where you're going to see either still galaxies, slow-moving galaxies, or to the left of it you're going to see galaxies that are moving away. To the right you're going to see some that are moving toward us, which would account for the reasoning that we see galaxies moving away from us and moving toward us. Same thing happens about in the middle. So this vacuum that's created in the center, the force of the explosion was so great that this vacuum that was created cannot collapse because there's so much energy that's still, there's so much kinetic energy from the explosion to this day that's still going outward, that the vacuum in the center of it can just not, it just cannot collapse the universe in a sense. Now if you look at the direction right here where it would pull out this way but at the top be kind of drawn out, that way you create on the insides an inside pressure and in the middle an outside pressure, which would give, if you look at the little arrows right there, that explains the shape of the galaxies, the fact that they're flat and they're not just blobs of clustered balls of stars and everything. Yeah, they're big, but in a relative sense compared to the universe they're flat and disc shaped like. I don't know a whole lot about science, which is why the odds of this being wrong are, I don't really know the odds of it being wrong. But it was a good idea that I came up with and that I thought of at a point. I decided to write it down. If there's anybody out there that would like to comment on this and tell me where I could be wrong or how you disagree, just feel free to leave a video comment, write a comment, but don't be disrespectful at the same time. If you're gonna watch my video and think it's crap, just go to the next one. This is a question for you and for me. I would like to personally know. I came up with this equation right here. Okay? E represents the force of the explosion. VP represents vacuum pressure. Times ER, which is the energy repulsion, creating a negative pull in the center, which creates gravity. Now you guys are probably going to look at me like I'm stupid, but hey, people looked at whoever it was that thought the earth was flat like he was stupid. So, I mean, times change, information changes. But basically, force of the explosion, the outward direction of the expansion, minus the vacuum pressure in the center, the negative, the pressure in here, the vacuum pressure in the center of this explosion, times the energy repulsion, which would be, in my eyes, the lack of nothing to stop the expansion. Creates a negative pull in the center, which in turn creates just floatingness, just like a vacuum, something that you just float in. It's nothingness. It's just it's like an airtight. It's a vacuum. It's an airtight seal, which in turn creates gravity. I can in a way say that we wouldn't have gravity if there wasn't something around us to contain our orbits and our revolving around other objects. Mainly because if you take a cup of coffee and you spin it really fast and you watch what happens, and you watch as the little bubbles and little whatever in the coffee just kind of slows down, speeds up, and then it just kind of levels out and stays in one fluid speed, it doesn't go out nor does it come in. It just kind of stays in its own orbit until it gradually just floats to the center, because that's where everything coagulates. But with some type of motion, some type of evenly timed spinning that is like consistent and at just the right rate of speed, is going to keep you in that one spot. Now you can't have this spin in this orbit without the walls of the cup of coffee, because if you don't have the walls of the cup of coffee, there's nothing to hold everything together. So this right here, I'm saying this energy repulsion, this is the outside edge of the cup of coffee, and all us and everything we know about is inside this little circle. So it's a far stretch. I think it's a good idea. You might think it's a little whack. You might think it's a good idea. Leave your comments, post videos, let me know what you think.